It brings tears to my eyes. Like, I'm getting emotional right now thinking about it. Hey everyone, it's Mia. Today I'm going to be talking about my favourite books of 2019. I have a lot of books to get through, so we better get started. Just a note before we begin is that I'm making this video with about half of December to go, so I might find some more favourite books, and if I do, I'll leave them down below in the comments or the description. Okay, let's begin. So the first book is Thicker Than Water, and I read this right at the start of the year, and it was the second time that I had read this book. I really love this book. It's so addicting, it's just really easy to read, and it just like makes you stay up all night reading it. Basically, it's a mystery, and it's about this guy whose mother has died, and I think it was a murder, but no one's really sure like how it actually happened, and everyone is kind of suspicious of the guy. Anyway, it's a mystery about that, but it's also like about his romance with this other girl, and it's actually a really well written romance. There's like a lot of tension, and it's just really good. It's really fun to read, so I definitely recommend it. So my next favourite book was Crest, which is the third book in the Lunar Chronicles series. So I had listened to this series on audiobook, and I loved the Crest book so much. It's one of those books where you know that it's not like high literature or anything, like it's not super fancy, but it's just so entertaining, and that's why you love it. I love Crest as a character, but I also love Thorn. Thorn is like one of my favourite characters in the Lunar Chronicles, so it was really fun to have them both be in a book together. I do want to point out though that I think my experience of reading Crest and the whole Lunar Chronicles as a series might have been altered by the fact that I listened to it as an audiobook, and I think by listening to it as an audiobook I might have found it more enjoyable. I think it's a result of not actually reading it and, you know, evaluating the writing, so I might think the writing is actually better than it might be, if that makes sense. So I think that my love for the Lunar Chronicles, and particularly Crest, has been definitely heightened by the fantastic audiobook experience that I had. Because the narrator was really good, like she did voices so well. The Lunar Chronicles audiobooks, they're great, I love them. So the next book I have in paper copy, and it is The Truth About the Harry Quebert Affair. I think that's how you pronounce Quebert because it's like, you know, French or something. But this was fantastic. I flew through this in days. Basically, it's a mystery, and it's about this author who's like super famous, and there's a body found in his garden, and in the body is like, it's the body of a girl, like a 15-year-old girl who went missing ages ago, and with the body is his manuscript of the book that became famous. It's so fantastic. It's just so addicting. I love this mystery so much. It's great in every way. Another reason why I love this book so much is because it's about writers. So there's the writer who's, you know, a suspect in a murder, but there's also the narrator who's also a writer who writes, like, tries to exonerate Harry Quebert by investigating the whole mystery. And it's just really great because it talks a lot about the craft of writing, but not like in a boring way, but like in a really interesting way. Like, it talks about each chapter as a writing tip. So at the beginning, it's like the first chapter, Marcus, is essential. And then at the very last chapter, I was so excited when I read it. The very last chapter says, the last chapter of a book, Marcus, should always be the best. Oh, doesn't that just excite you and make you think, oh my god, this last chapter is going to be epic? Like, every single aspect, every single part of this book, I just loved. I just loved the whole creation of it. So the next three books I'm going to talk about are rereads, and they're all part of the Ruby Oliver Quartet by E. Lockhart. So the first one is The Boyfriend List. The second one is The Boy Book, but I didn't read that this year just because I didn't get my hands on it, but I would have if I had the choice. The third one is The Treasure Map of Boys, which I also read, and the fourth one is Real Life Boyfriends. So basically I could read this series over and over again, and I know you're probably thinking, what the heck, this series looks kind of dumb. And you know what? I wouldn't blame you, but I swear they're not. I mean, despite the fact that they're all about boys and high school drama and friendship and all that kind of stuff, I actually think that it's not that shallow. I think it's actually kind of insightful in a way. Basically, throughout this series, the main character, Ruby Oliver, like, while she's encountering all this drama, she also like goes to therapy, and I guess it's really interesting how she kind of evaluates her experiences and kind of understands herself better. I just really like the psychoanalysis aspect in these books, because if there's one hobby you know I like to do, it's psychoanalyzing myself. So I just think these were really fun to read, and not only fun, but they're just good, you know, they're just good. Also, I love E. Lockhart as a writer. I love basically every single one of her books. They're all fantastic, so yeah. So here are another set of 3 rereads, and these are 3 Harry Potter books. So surprisingly this year I didn't read the whole series of Harry Potter, but I just read, you know, 3 of my favorites. I think as I get older, I'm starting to lean more towards the more, you know, older, later books of Harry Potter. So this year I read The Goblet of Fire, which is always a favourite of mine. I love this one so much. I just love the Triwizard Tournament. I didn't read The Order of the Phoenix, and I think that was simply out of laziness because the book, you know, is really long. Also, I don't like The Order of the Phoenix as much. It's, I don't know, the plot, I think it's okay, but it's not as good as these ones. I also read The Half-Blood Prince, which is also a favourite of mine, and I can never really tell between these two which one I like more because they're both pretty much my equal favourites in the series. I also read The Deathly Hallows just to finish off the series, which was okay, but I definitely like these 2 more. But all the same, these are all 5 stars though, because all Harry Potter books are fantastic. Okay, here are 3 more rereads. I recently read the Winner's Curse trilogy, beginning with The Winner's Curse, The Winner's Crime, and The Winner's Kiss, and these are so good. Like, I've loved these since I was in year 9. And then I reread them and I was a bit worried because I didn't know whether, you know, they would be as good as I remembered them to be. And I was worried that I had outgrown them. But when I read these again, I was like, nope, still fantastic. Still made me so emotional. And oh, I just love it. Like, truly, it's so entertaining, it's so emotional, it's romantic, it's heartbreaking, it's smart, it's clever, it's got twists and turns. Basically, it's set in this world where there's an empire that's overtaken other countries and everything, and it begins with a love story between a lady who is a general's daughter and her slave. And I know that sounds really, you know, like problematic and everything, but Marie Rotkowski, she does a really fantastic job at, you know, making the romance actually a good one, you know? Like, the power imbalance, it just, trust me, it all works out and it's really fantastic. It is fantastic. Like, I love the main 2 characters in this series so much. I want to cry over their romance. It literally, it makes me so emotional. It makes me an emotional wreck. So I really hope that if you haven't already picked up this series, you at least consider doing so because it brings tears to my eyes. Like, I'm getting emotional right now thinking about it. But fantastic, really fantastic. Although one thing is that I didn't like the 3rd book as much as the first 2, but nonetheless, still fantastic, still one of my favourite series in the world. So finally, I have a graphic novel, and that is Heartstopper. The art is fantastic. It's really simple, but like, I think it does the job. Anyway, this book made me happy. Usually I'm kind of cynical about romances, but this one was actually really sweet and precious and cute. Even though there are some dark parts in this book, it's still really uplifting and it just makes you happy. So it's really enjoyable and I really recommend it. Basically, it's about Charlie and Nick and how they first become friends and then they later become, you know, well, more than friends. It's really easy to read and it's just fantastic. So I really recommend you checking out this book. You can read it online for free if you want because it is a webcomic, but I definitely think reading the paper version it's just a better experience in my opinion. So those are my favourite books of 2019. I feel like that's a pretty good list if I do say so myself. Usually I have fewer favourites, so it's really good that I have more this year. Granted, a lot of them are rereads, but at the same time I did discover a few new favourites, so that's fantastic. I will be making a 2019 book wrap-up video that will be coming out closer to the end of the year. And I was also considering making a worst books of 2019 video. I'm not sure if you would like to see that though, because when I was considering making it, I was worried that I'd be a little bit too negative in the video, like a little bit too harsh or angry. But if you do want to see that video, then let me know. Okay, so that's it for this video, and I'll see you in my next. Bye!